Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the show. In today's episode, expect to learn how your body deals with heat, the pros and cons of exercising in higher temperature environments, how long it takes for your body to build heat tolerance, how to feel more comfortable with your workouts when it's hot and humid, if you're hydrating yourself well enough, recognizing the key signs of when to pull the cord for safety concerns, and much more. So essentially, this episode is all about exercising when it is hot outside, because right now it's June. It is middle of summer, if you want to call this middle of summer. It's been a minute, about 3 years now since I've been in school. And so my point of reference context of seasons is not like how it used to be for the first 20 odd years of higher education, of primary and uni. And yeah, normally I have those benchmarks, those expiration timestamps that indicates to me, hey, this is about to be winter break, this is about to be summer break. But now I don't really have those type of landmarks, temporal landmarks that directs me otherwise. It's more so going outside, and it's more of like a mild, gradual increase. Well, I live in the Midwest, so it's not very mild. You can experience 4 different seasons in the course of 6 hours. So take that with a grain of salt. But yes, this episode's all about working out in the heat and how to make it better, because it can suck. It can suck a lot. And right now, currently, I'm in my marathon running era, main character type of vibe, and it's hot outside. I like running outside in the heat. For a minute there, I was running first thing in the morning because I was trying to set the conditions for myself to build a habit and the desire to want to run. Since for some reason, when it comes to running for me, I experience much resistance and friction. But when it comes to lifting weights, I don't have that same type of experience, which is interesting for me. However, it also makes sense because it's a skill. It's a skill that I haven't developed physically. So the physiological adaptation, the neural adaptations, all that jargon stuff, but also the mental formation of my comfort with running and the rest of that. And so for a minute there, I was running first thing in the morning when it was cooler, getting it done first thing in the day, getting that win for myself. And then now I am transitioning over to middle of the day, because now a lot of my mornings is before I go to my day job working at the hospital, is content creation, essentially the creation portion of the business. Because if I don't create things, I don't make money. And that's kind of important. That's almost like why we're here, me creating all this stuff. And the accumulation of all that led to now sharing this episode with you guys on how working out outside in hot temperatures is hard and how to make it better for you. And so we're going to dive into that. And with that, the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, I've set the conditions and the schedule for my runs, my long runs, particularly on Fridays, middle of the day. And I like that. I like that because I like to tan also. I like feeling the sun on me. I like driving out to this lake that we have locally, about 20-minute drive out. And it's nature. I'm fully immersed in it. There's a lake, there's trees, there's dirt, there's bugs. And I like running on the trails. It pulls me out of the box of whatever coffee shop or my office or office at work, just inside, and being able to be outside and not just in the city. Because even though I love running down the streets, the city, all that, it is nice to see green, nice to see non-artificial greens and run with nature for both a physiological neural benefits of the production of vitamin D and nitric oxide for vascular health and all the rest of that, but really just to feel more human and connected to Earth and unplug my mind from my phones, the technology, and just fully separate myself and be able to run and just feel very free. And it's fun. But with that, I have to be very careful with the conditions I'm running in. And that's why that inspired me to talk about this with you guys. And so I'm going to unpack that. We're going to go into it of how to make your runs or just any type of physical activity, exercise that you were doing outside suck a little less during the hot weather, because it is summertime. And so for those of you that simply don't like to exercise in the sense of running, biking, swimming, or lifting weights, and you just want to do it for just general movement because that's just where you are currently at in your fitness journey, is just walking outside, and you just want to make that be a little less sucky, or you want to play outdoor activities because that form of physical activity engagement is fun and you can actually see yourself doing it, like pickleball is the new thing. Pickleball, I don't know where it came from, but everyone's doing it. I haven't done it yet. It's on my to-do list. And so if you are outside just going out for walks by yourself with your family, playing pickleball, or you are doing some type of athletic endeavor, joining run clubs, those things are popping up everywhere. It's the new thing. Or you're out for your hot girl walk, or what I like to call for me is hot boy walk, because why can I not feel that too? I'm incinerating while walking outside, so I feel quite warm and quite hot in a sense. So on your hot boy hot girl walk, you're out running with these different run clubs because that's the new culty thing. It's very cool. I haven't joined one yet. There's one in the evening on Wednesdays, but I can't make it because it's kind of late and I'm pretty much zapped by that point. Or you're just out doing different summer shenanigans and buffoonery, and you want to make sure that you are able to adapt to the weather well enough. So we're going to go right into it. Whatever your goals may be, this is going to help. And so the thing that I want to make sure everyone understands from a big picture wise is your body has different pathways and mechanisms and systems to regulate your core body temperature and make sure that you stay balanced, equilibrium, homeostasis. So the best way to conceptualize this is think about a scale, right? Just think about a scale, and there's components on the left side and right side. So there's physiological, not just physiological, there's loads of compartments that influences heat gain, so your body creating heat, and on the other side is heat loss, because the body doesn't like to go too far in one direction. The best way to conceptualize or have a point of reference about you and your body, your physiology, the mechanisms and everything and the rest of it, think of it as the conductor. And the conductor is trying to control the symphony of every single artist, instrument, and be able to manage the harmony, the flow of every single moving tiny pieces to create that harmonic, beautiful song. You're trying to create music. And if you see the human body through that lens of it's creating a song, everything you do is a very beautiful note as you're navigating through life. You're just walking. Just the fact that you're alive and you're walking down the street, there's so many mechanisms and processes that's all firing in all cylinders, and things are going up, things are going down, just moving back and forth in some type of harmonic flow to create the note for you to be able to just exist and walk is awesome. And now if you're going to throw into the mix of you exercising, which is also a stressor, and now the conditions of the sun and the heat, that is also a stressor on you. And so your body has different mechanisms, contingency plans to make sure that it doesn't swing the pendulum too far in one way. And I call that Batman mode. Because if you think about Batman, he's that superhero that is brilliant. He's just deliberate, he's intentional, he's strategic, and he always has a contingency plan for contingency plans and contingency plans. And your body works very much like that. It's very resilient, robust, and it has a plan. There's something in place in case of when something goes wrong. Almost like if you lose power in your home and all of a sudden the generator, the spare generator automatically jumps on and starts lighting everything up. So Batman mode. And so if you think about this, big overarching concept here is your thermic balance, right? So thermal regulation is essentially how us humans can make sure that we maintain our core body temperature. So with that, we're going to talk about just the heat gain. So on that side of the spectrum of what generates heat. for your body, right? And so we can look at it from a environmental factor of how you generate heat and the conditions, which goes well with going outside. So if you're working out outside from a environmental factor of how it makes your body basically rev a little hotter, think about the temperature that you are exercising or being active in. How hot is it? Okay, now look at the humidity, okay, and look at the airflow. So those are three big components of the environmental factor: the temperature, the humidity, and the airflow. And then now we're going to look into the next compartment, this next slice of the pie, which is the biological factors. So your basal metabolic rate. And these are components of your TDEE, so your total daily energy expenditure. Essentially, everything underneath this is going to play into effect of how your body generates heat, and essentially the calories, the energy it needs to just keep all the lights on and to support you in whatever function you are doing. So your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, is the amount of calories you need to just keep the lights on. Your brain functioning, your heart pumping, your blood, your vessels to move the blood flow, and your muscles to move, and just everything else. It's just to keep the lights, your organs, everything functioning, so then you can just stay cool. So that's your BMR. And so your body's working. Your body's continuously working. The only time it's not working is if you are in the grave. The next thing is TEF, the thermic effect of food. And now this has to do with the amount of energy that your body uses to break down food. So from that first bite, from your body having to produce certain enzymes from your saliva to start breaking it down, for your body to transporting it through you, for it to break it down even more through different enzymes, through different compartments, and then to just separate it, absorb it, use it, and then just moving it around where it needs to go. And certain macronutrients like protein and fiber, your body has to work a little harder. So your body's going to rev a little bit harder to do that as well. And so next is like your hormones. So different hormonal from just the endocrine factor, and then neurohormonal stuff too. So that influences all the different processes in your body, all that takes energy. So pulling it back, now we've talked about the environmental factors, conditions. Now we talked about the biological. So that's how your body is generating heat as well on that heat gain side of the scale. Now the next thing is activity. So your NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is the unconscious and conscious movement that you are going about your day, from fidgeting, from walking down the aisle of your local grocery store, from walking around your home, doing your household chores, etc. And then now your intentional exercise, from cardiovascular stuff, something rhythmic, from like walking, swimming, biking, to lifting weights. So your intentional exercise, all of that is requiring your heart to pump harder, your vessels to push the blood, and for your muscles, your working muscles, to work harder too, and the rest of it downstream from there. So environmental, biological, and activity. And now the other factor that can affect your heat gain while you're outside in the summer heat is going to be your clothing. So how thick of clothing are you wearing? That can definitely affect how the heat is being expelled from your body, dissipating and stuff like that. Because if you wear very thick clothing during the summertime, when you're outside running, when you're outside lifting, when you're outside walking around the zoo, the park, that can make things a lot harder, and it can make you just warmer because it's just encapsulating everything in, right? And so now with all that, those are many different ways of how your body is generating heat. It's just revving. The engine's always revving. Now, on the other scale, like I said, you're the Batman mode. There's contingencies. There's different mechanisms and pathways set in place to help make sure that you don't swing the pendulum too far in one direction. Make sure that you are able to stay in some balance or harmonic place, equilibrium. Essentially, it's not like a straight line. It's too simple to say it like that, but essentially think of a harmonic note balance. And so some of those other things is that your body can respond through cardiovascular, through neurological and endocrine, so different hormones to help cool you off and pull things back so you're not revving as hot. And so something super simple is you outside, first thing you start doing is you start sweating, right? Your vessels will start to dilate because of different sensories, receptors inside of you from your heart, from your brain, and different areas will sense that you are exercising in hotter conditions, and they're going to start releasing certain domino effects for your vascular system, so your blood vessels to start dilating. And so if you think about that, think of a water hose, and if you kink it, the pressure of the water is reduced. But then if you unkink it, the pressure goes up. The water can go more forcefully and aggressively, and with that, more blood flow, and with that, the your vessels are going to dilate, and that's going to bring more of the heat out to your skin, and through your sweat glands you're going to be able to start sweating, and that's how you're able to cool yourself down. And you can also cool yourself down from the airflow, from the sweat on you from evaporating, through some of those other mechanisms of how you can cool yourself down when you're outside, right? And then, but now, okay, so big picture wise, now we understand the thermic balance of like, okay, there's different mechanisms and compartments and aspects of things that tip the scale in one direction, swing the pendulum in one direction of how your body basically revs up. And then there's certain other mechanisms and processes that can help swing the pendulum back over. And throughout the day, your body's always swinging it back and forth to maintain some type of balance, right? And now I want to go into a situation of something more practical that many of us are at fault of, and I am including in this, is say you are dehydrated. You aren't drinking enough water and electrolytes and when you're outside. And with that, that can be a pretty scary thing, because if you're outside running, for example, like some of my long runs right now, and I understand not everyone's at the extreme of me, like comparing you to me, of me prepping for my marathon run. I am doing 1 hour to two and up to the marathon of like 4 hour runs outside. I'm not there yet. I'm only at the 2 hour mark as of recently, but still, you can be outside just walking, hanging out, having a picnic, being at the zoo, just being outside. And if you are underprepared acutely, that's okay. But if you are too underprepared, you can lead to things can lead down a bad road of different heat illnesses that you don't want to go down that direction, because then it can really lead to really life altering consequences, like just the fact that you can be dehydrated, right? A little thirsty, dehydrating, and some of the sensations that you can feel is being nauseous, dizziness, and fatigue. But if you swing too far over, you're outside, exposed in the heat for too long. If you haven't acclimated to the higher temperatures just yet, and you're outside trying to work out, generating more heat from your body, you're underprepared because of hydration. You're outside for too long because you haven't prepared your body to be exposed in that just yet, and you're revving too hot, then that can swing the pendulum from just being a little dehydrated to heat exhaustion to essentially worst case scenario, and you don't want to go that direction. And one of the signs, and again, this is not medical advice or anything, this is just straight up, just straight information. One of the signs that someone is not is you're really looking into that really bad door is like a normal human physiological response is like, okay, if there's a disturbance, something happens, it's hot out, your body will detect that. Okay, it'll detect it just like Batman detects things, and then it's going to respond. He's going to do something about it, your body will do something about it, and then that's sweating. That's like the first big thing. But if you notice somebody not sweating anymore and they're getting kind of pale, and the fact that they're not sweating anymore, their body's not doing the physiological response that it is designed to do to cool you down, then that's where you need to start taking things a little more drastically to making sure that either you or somebody is getting the help it needs, getting to cooler shades and things like that. So pulling this back, just that's more chronic, and that's, yeah, but I want to like pierce back a little more of giving you a bit about the acute changes of what's happening underneath the surface, the whys. And this is, I'm gonna get a little more into the jargon stuff, because the jargon stuff, yes, I have an obsession and passion for a piece of the jargon of the scientific, the whys and the hows. And it's not just for it's not just to tickle me, but it's of agency and utility. Because then if you understand what's happening, then it gives you power, because knowledge can help empower you. And if you understand what's happening, then you can recognize and be aware of the signs, the symptoms of what you're experiencing, and you can understand where you measure up on the scale of, okay, I'm in the green zone, I'm fine. I'm swinging the pendulum over to the yellow zone a little bit more, and then now I'm swinging too far into the red zone. Or you can recognize it from somebody else, and you can help share this information for others, because every parts of the world, most unless you live in Antarctica, the cold area, but most people everywhere have to experience hot conditions, and your body takes time to adapt to it. And roughly it takes anywhere between 10 to 14 days for your body to acclimate to higher temperature environments. And many factors play into that as well, especially as your fitness level of your aerobic conditioning. So just how conditioned are your muscles, how much exercise you are doing outside in the heat, how there's a lot of those factors. And so I just kind of want to that's one of the big reasons why understanding the hows and whys and the utility of it, the agency of it, gives you power from knowledge, so you can do something about it to help yourself to make sure that you stay safe outside, to make sure that you are able to not lower your performance, and it also helps support other people around you, so then you can be that source of knowledge to help them, like a family member that just doesn't know, and you want to make sure that they are staying hydrated, not just water. We're going to get into that, and that's big reasons why I make sure that I want to share this information. And so we're going to dive into just acute changes. And I also have, you can't see right now, but I have a whiteboard here with the information, trying to draw a roadmap to help organize and be able to communicate and articulate my thoughts clearly to you guys. So this is new. This is going to be fun, as I'm not perfect at this, and this is fun because it's requiring me to draw back from information of deep science stuff that I haven't touched base on in a while, and be able to tell this in a very captivating story, and for me just to get the reps in practice, because I know that in 1 year, in 5 years, I will be better at this, and I will thank present me now, going through the discomfort and being vulnerable of, hey, I have notes right here. I don't know everything top of my dome, but I synthesized 7, 8 years of higher education to this whiteboard to help share this with you guys. So moving forward, cardiovascular, hormone, and neuro changes acutely, and this is kind of what happens when you're dehydrated. Okay, so when you're dehydrated, I'm going to do the scenario saying you were outside and you were training for your first 10K, right? I'm going to take that example here. You're training for your 10K. You are wanting to go on a hiking trip with your friends to Colorado. Someone just asked, your friends or family is asking you, or you're about to spend a 12-hour day outside at the zoo, right? And you want to prepare yourself. But say this is worst case scenario, and you kind of understand what is going on, and then I'll give you practical examples on how to make sure that you are hydrated and go from there. So acute cardiovascular changes of what can happen. Okay, so if you're dehydrated, your blood plasma volume is going to go down. And if you look at your blood has three main compartments inside of it. So first thing is your blood plasma volume, and then the next thing is going to be your red blood cells, and thirdly is going to be your white blood cells. So primary, you got a lot of plasma in there. Secondary, a lot of red blood cells. Third is white. And your plasma volume is made up of mainly water. And so if you're dehydrated, your blood plasma volume is going to go down. And now if that goes down, then the amount of blood that's coming back to your heart, right? There's blood that pumps out of your heart that goes to all your working muscles, your organs, and then some of that has to come back to get reoxygenated and get more oxygen in, and repeats the cycle. But if you're dehydrated, then you're going to have less water in your blood plasma volume. And then that means your blood coming back, that venous return, is going to slow down. It's like you're kinking that hose of water. It's not coming back as fast, and that's going to slow down your stroke volume. And what that part is, for your heart to beat, your heart rate, which everyone knows this, your heart rate is beats per minute. But then there's another component to it that equals the product. So it's your heart rate, and then there's your stroke volume. And stroke volume is the volume of blood that's coming out of your heart per beat. So every single heartbeat, there's your a volume of blood that's coming out. And then it's just heart rate times stroke volume equals cardiac output. And what that is the volume of blood that's coming out of your heart per minute. So that's a big one. So if you're dehydrated, blood plasma volume goes down, less water, blood coming back slows down. It's going to affect your heart stroke volume, which is going to affect the amount of blood that's coming out. And now with that, your body doesn't like that. It doesn't like that at all. And so there's going to be several different mechanisms that's going to start firing away. Now it's Batman mode. Now it's like somebody pulled the fire alarm inside the building, and now it's like, okay, now we got to respond. Something's happening. There's something not right, or it's like the check engine light in your car that's popped up. It's not like it's life or death or anything like that. But it's a warning, it's a sign. Now we got to do something about it. Okay, Batman mode. Now you have something called your baroreceptor reflex, and this little guy, you have one in your heart and also in your neck, so your carotid and aortic arch. So this guy is going to be like, whoa, what's going on? Start sending signals, and then through different mechanisms, your heart's going to start contracting harder, right? That means your heart rate's going to start going up a little bit. So your heart rate's going to go up, and then there's going to be a fluid shift. So some water fluids inside you is going to go in to help increase that blood plasma volume. So then your stroke volume, your heart rate, your cardiac output, that means so then your cardiac levels, it's swinging too far in one direction, it's not good, now we want it back. Okay, so start pulling all that stuff in. So some of the other systems is going to be your renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, and ADH, antidiuretic hormone. So basically, all of these different mechanisms, these big jargony names, are different neurohormonal processes for your body to start making sure that your heart rate is beating, enough volume of blood plasma is there, moving fluids around, boom. But that's acute changes, that's okay, but we don't really want that for too long, because if you start experiencing that for too chronically and too often, that can start affecting your performance, right? So for example, say you were outside and you are, like with the example I gave, you're trying to run your first 10K, and you are trying to stay in that zone 2 area, right? That's 60 to 70% of your heart rate. Excuse me. And so you're out there, you're running, you're trying to stay with your heart rate beats. Like for me, I stay in my heart rate range around in the 140s and low 150s. Say I'm out there, right? I'm out there, and say I'm dehydrated. And by me running out there, my body has the mechanisms to start cooling me down. So for it to cool me down, I'm gonna start sweating. And typically for like an hour, just averaging numbers here, people can lose up to about a liter on average of sweat per hour. And with that, there's this thing called cardiac drift. And with the cardiac drift, your heart rate could drift up, meaning that it can go up on average around 8 beats per minute. And so your heart is going to work harder. So some of that background jargon stuff that I said there for a second, that explains why your heart is going to be working harder while you're outside exercising, which is already a stressor. So the exercise is a stressor. The heat beating on you is going to make things harder. So the whole thing is going to feel harder. And with you losing sweat too, and you're not hydrated enough, your heart rate's going to go up higher than it needs to. It makes everything so much harder. And so with that cardiac drift can go up. And so you're probably thinking, what do you do now? Say you're outside running, you still have more miles and still time to clock in. You gotta still keep going. And so with that, there's like two things you can do. One, you can bring your pace down. You can go slower, so your heart rate comes down more. If you're trying to monitor your heart rate, trying to stay in the areas and stuff, more that zone 2, that conversational pace, you can slow down your pace. But because of you slowing down your pace, then you're not hitting your time splits. Say, like for me right now, my zone 2, I hang out around the 10 to 11 minute per mile pace. But if I was experiencing this, I have to lower it down because it's actually revving up too high. So I got to go pull it back down. I'm going to go slower, and I'm not going to like that. And now, or you can stay there. That's option 2, is that you can just stay there, but then your heart rate's going to be really high. Excuse me. Your heart rate's going to be really high, and then you can experience a lot more fatigue afterwards. So both options not great there. And so it's like, okay, what do we do with this? What is something practical that we can actually do? quick answer is just drink a lot more water, right? Generally, everyone knows drink a little more water to help that stuff, right? But it's a little bit more than that. Should you just drink more water? Should you go grab some Gatorade? What do you need to do? And so this is where being a little more strategic and understanding a little more the why is helpful. So let's go over hydration and electrolytes, because hydration isn't just water. And so the analogy that the concept in my mind that makes the most sense whenever I'm sharing this is I like to bring up whiskey and Coke. So think of the whiskey or uh, rum or really whatever type of mixed drink you're thinking of. It's just like a mixed drink. So think of the electrolytes as the alcohol. Electrolytes, alcohol. And think of the water as the water or the Coke or whatever the thing that you were wanting to dilute it with, right? And when you go out to the bar, like you go out to the bar and you're in college, or the bartender and they're trying to hook you up a little bit and being like, hey, let me splash a little more extra alcohol in here for this person because we're cool, we're chill like that. And yeah, so you're like, cool, yeah, I'm trying to have a good night, so I'm trying to get a little more wild and feel a little more free, liquid courage. And you drink your drink, but then it's just so strong. It's like past that threshold where it's just too strong, and you can't even like enjoy it or even really down it. But now if you're like 21, like how I was, or got in the bar a little earlier, you don't really care, you just down it anyways. But there's a threshold where it's just like too much and you make that face. But then on the other end of the pendulum, the scale, the polar end, is that if it's too much Coke or too much water, you barely taste the alcohol, and you're like, what gives? I'm trying to be out, I'm trying to party, trying to have a good time, do the rest of it, but I want some alcohol. Not the good or bad. I just want it. I wanted to just to match the vibe. And so it's same thing with this. It's like too much of one thing, it's not good. Too much of the other one, it's not good. You're trying to find that equal ratio, that Goldilocks zone that just hits just right. And so when it comes to hydration for hotter temperature climates, you want a good ratio of the water and the electrolyte for optimal hydration to help support you to stay safe and to increase your performance. And so with that, think about anywhere between the guidelines roughly is like 3 to 8 fluid ounces of water every 15 minutes. And so if you're working out outside and it's like 90 degrees and humidity is climbing up there and you're going to be out there for quite a while and it's a very toasty day, like just very hot, then you might be on that upper end. And especially if you are also working out really hard. If you're just walking, that's one thing. But then if you are also running for like the whole hour, or training both something cardio or lifting wise, and you're not as adapted to the heat just yet because it's the beginning of the season, then there's a lot of factors that can come at play here, but you are probably maybe at that upper end. Like if it's like 70 degrees outside, that's different compared to being almost 100 degrees outside and humidity is like 80% and the airflow, the wind is very minimal and there's no clouds. So there's a lot of considerations and moving pieces here. It really depends. But say it's super hot, you're not acclimated yet, and you're working out really hard, and you're getting really flushed, and you're starting to experience some of the nausea, dizziness, and fatigue. Then you are probably going to want that 8, almost 10 ounces of water every 15 minutes. And now, just easy number, if you're using 8 after that whole hour, that's 32 ounces. That's 32 ounces of water. And now with that water, you're going to want some electrolytes. And so two of the electrolytes, the big ones for this is going to be sodium and potassium. So both of these play lots of big roles in muscle contractions to different mechanisms and processes of your body. I almost want to go down on one road for a second, but understand they play a lot of big roles to make sure that you stay cognitively in tune. So your brain, your mental focus is there. Your muscles aren't going to cramp. You're able to perform well. You don't feel those sensations of nauseousness, dizziness, or lethargic or fatigue. You want to be able to perform well and enjoy the day and be there for the whole experience. And so sodium and potassium with your water is going to be important. Now you might be thinking how much of electrolytes, because those play a huge role in everything. So sodium wise, easy numbers is like 300 to 600 milligrams, and potassium is like 100 to 200. And so brands I love for this, you can do it through dietary methods of like you can bring a banana with you for the potassium, or you can bring some pretzels with you for the sodium, the saltiness, and or you can do some type of supplementation, or also just also like have more in your diet, some of those potassium and sodiums in your diet, or you can supplement it with a couple of different brands like Liquid IV or LMNT or Salt. It's spelled SALTT. There's other ones out there like Noon, and then there's some of those different sports beverages like Gatorade, Prime, Ghost Hydration. There's a few other ones out there too. But that's a great way for you to get it in, either through just dietary methods in your normal diet, bringing it with you, or also having it in some type of powdery supplement form by adding it into your water, or just having it already in some type of mixed concoction sports drink like that. And yeah, but the big caveat to be mindful of is just like as a disclaimer, if you have some type of cardiovascular concern already, then you want to monitor and be careful of your sodium levels already. But that's where you talk to your doctor about that stuff. But just general healthy people who want to or willing to push the edges of their physical capabilities and just want to do the thing, experience more out of life, and move, train more, do all the things. Practical application stuff is making sure you have some sodium, some potassium in your water, and making sure that you are drinking enough of it every hour. Like you don't have to get too detailed, because I don't, every like few minutes. When I get further in my marathon running, yes, but just make sure that you have a big water bottle with you that you bring with to whatever you are doing. And so for something like very practical that I do, actually out of that too, is carbohydrates. So for your body to absorb it even more efficiently is having some type of carbohydrate as almost like a vehicle for the water electrolytes to hijack with the car to being absorbed and utilized even more efficiently and quicker. So something very practical that I do for my runs, or just working out in hotter temperatures, because at my gym we do have the garage doors that do open up and it does get pretty toasty and I work out. So I make sure that I stay hydrated. I just make sure that I drink about half a gallon, or I have a water bottle that's like 32 ounces, and I make sure I have at least 2 or 3 of that throughout the day, depending on when I am working out. Say I'm working out in the middle of the day, I try to have at least 2 or 3 of those before. Just stay on top of my hydration. Every hour to two, I always check on myself of, did I have a cup of water? Did I have a little bit more? Things like that. And making sure you're hydrated. You can also feel it. I understand not everyone as in tune or aware of these type of things. If you need to be very strategic of water and fluids, something I've told clients before is look at how, set the conditions for you to succeed. So if you spend the majority of your time in your office, whether your office is in the office itself, like you have to commute, or you work from home remotely, place a water bottle in your office, place a water bottle in your kitchen, place one in your living room, place one in your bedroom. And that way there is always water everywhere you go, and you can just have a sip right there. Or first thing in the morning as well, before my feet hit the ground, I have a cup of water right next to me and I try to down it. The size of the cup and volume of the fluid ounces vary from whatever cup I decide to grab the previous night before, but I make sure I have a big gulp of it, start the day off well, and just stay hydrated. And now when I go to the lake on my runs and stuff like that, also you have to think about the after the workout too, the hydration part. How long is it going to for you to get to where you're trying to go? Because if you are dehydrated up to like 3 to 4%, you can lose like, how, hold on, it's like you can lose up to a liter of sweat per hour. And if you lose too much sweat and you're dehydrated, then there's a certain range of like 3 to 4% of it, dehydration, can start affecting your VO2 max. So that means the VO2 max is the amount of oxygen that you consume when you're working out. And so if you are dehydrated, it can start affecting your performance. It can make the workout harder, and then you're not able to push as hard, go as long, and that can also mess with you psychologically, and you might start blaming yourself, thinking maybe something is wrong with me, etc., etc. Downstream effect of just negative self-deprecating thoughts of just very picky, tearing you apart. And so it literally does have a physiological effect on your performance. So making sure that you are hydrated from that standpoint. And so something that I do when it goes to training at the lake is I make sure that I am through my like pre-fueling, making sure that I am hydrated, I am fueled, well hydrated, and caffeinated too. But then during my runs, to make sure that I either have my water pack on or I know the route I'm running. There's water fountains, and even though I'm not thirsty, I stop and I drink it on my routes, and I come back. I have this giant tin can that's a gallon. It's insulated. I got off Amazon for like I think $20, and I make sure I fill that up with water, and I have some electrolytes on the side if I want it to, because I understand after the run, after being in the heat, my mouth gets a little kind of dry, and I don't like the electrolytes right away because it feels grainy. It's like a preference thing. I'd rather just drink a little bit of water and then get a body armor or one of those hydration drinks that's I don't taste the graininess of the salt. It's not as apparent to me. But throughout the day, I have no issues with that. It's just after being in the heat, very feeling more dehydrated. That's just how I am. And so I have that in the car as I'm sipping, 20 minutes drive home, and then I start making sure I get food in, more electrolytes in throughout the evening to replenish all that I lost. Because after a long run of 1 to 2 hours, I can lose up to 3 to 4 pounds of water, which is for the 3 to 4% of your body weight. And if you are too dehydrated, like I said, it can reduce your performance. You can feel dizziness, nausea, lethargic, fatigue, etc. And so that right there, pulling it back, big picture, understanding how your body responds to being in the heat, and for you to acclimate to the heat as well. That's the next big thing. Is it takes anywhere between 10 to 14 days of you exercising outside for around 90 minutes. So practically how you can do this is start changing your physiology from the inside out. Something that's actually the adaptation is actually occurring is exposing yourself out by going on walks, right? Like going out on more walks outside and to a tolerable range, and then coming back and just spending more time and understanding that the first couple of days of being in the heat, of exercising in the heat, everything's going to feel harder. Your heart rate's going to go up, you're going to be sweating a lot more, your performance is going to go down momentarily and temporarily. But as long as you are being consistent with it and you are hydrating yourself well, you just have to get over that big learning curve of that hump to be able for your physiology to essentially adapt to it from a cellular and physiological and your own psychological perspective. And then it's smooth cruising and you're good. So if you're an athlete and say you have a meet, you have a competition, you have a race somewhere, it's in a very hot climate, hotter than the condition where you are right now, then it might be of use and utility to go there early to acclimate to the heat, the temperatures. Otherwise, that could be a big thing because 4% of losing water, 20% of your VO2 max getting knocked off already before you even start performing, making everything harder. I understand that it's not always practical for everybody, but start exposing yourself by almost microdosing the heat into you while you're exercising and just being outside is really helpful, and making sure that you are staying hydrated with the water, with the electrolytes throughout the day, and then definitely during your workouts or activities outside, and then afterwards too. And just because you feel thirsty isn't the sign of when you should be hydrating yourself when you're outside in the heat. You want to make sure that you do it before you feel thirsty. You don't want to feel thirsty. That's one of the warning signs, the check engine light that your body lights up to tell you, hey, it's time to drink water. But you want to stay above that curve, and by just continuously hydrating yourself. The big negative effect, as long as you're a healthy and active individual, is that you just may have to use the restroom a little bit more. Which, comparing the alternative, it's not that bad of a deal. So I hope this was really helpful, and go out there, do all the things, enjoy the sun, go get tan, go join some run clubs, go on your hot boy, hot girl walk, or just do the things outside and just stay safe, or share this information with others. Do the things. And this was fun. This was something that I wanted to do. was a little nervous. I'm still a little I judge myself a little bit, and just me sharing. This is actually like more my wheelhouse, the intellectual, the really deep jargony stuff. But for some reason, I have this fear of just putting it out loud. And it's been a little bit, so I'm a little rusty, a little dust some of the cobwebs off in my mind, and just practicing the skill of communicating and articulating this. It takes time. And even though I understand in my mind, but being able to articulate it to you in a way that makes sense and that is evidence based and that flows in a story is a different skill that I was never taught in school. But the fact that I'm doing this right now is a big win. It's a dub. It's a dub. And now we're up to almost at the end of this and gotta get all this uploaded to go watch House of the Dragon. And so I'm just curious if you were House Green or House Red. Marketing, no, green and black. Green and black. The marketing for the show is amazing, and I'm so excited. So excited. Well, thank you guys. And if you haven't done so already, please drop a rating if you think I'm doing well, you're enjoying the show, getting practical information, tangible tools out of this, or just like it for the shenanigans and buffoonery that we have on here every now and stuff. And if you have not yet, please follow the show. Go on Spotify, hit the following button, or on Apple Podcast, lean over to the right upper hand corner of the screen. There's 3 little dots in a circle. Hit that, and then you'll see the follow button. And that way, you always get notifications every week when episodes are uploaded. And that would make me very happy knowing that this is reaching you guys. You guys can share it, and you guys enjoy it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next one.